Welcome to Unmute Yourself. I'm your host, Jennifer Carter, and I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is about lifting the curtain on leadership, purpose, and the real stories behind people who dared to do things differently. We'll talk about how they found their path, the struggles they faced, and how they built something that truly matters. These are everyday people doing extraordinary things, and I want you to know you are capable of that too. For today's conversation, I am joined by Sarah Ruddy, a mission-driven leader who's dedicated her career to creating workforce systems that work for everyone. And with over a decade of experience and a master's of social work from Boston College, Sarah brings both heart and strategy to the world of workforce development. She's passionate about connecting people to meaningful careers while helping businesses meet their talent needs. Here we go. She's passionate about connecting people to meaningful careers while helping businesses meet their talent needs, proving that equity and economic growth aren't opposing goals, they're partners. What I love about Sarah's work is she's not just focused on programs or placements, she's focused on people. She's helping to reimagine what opportunity looks like one career pathway at a time. Sarah, I'm so excited to have you here today.
Oh, me too. Thank you so much for welcoming me, and I'm excited for our conversation.
Yes, and it's so funny to me because y'all, when I first was speaking with Sarah, she's like, I don't really have that much to say or do. And once you hear her story and what she's worked on over her career, you're going to be like, okay, Sarah, right. Because you're just absolutely phenomenal. So tell us, so what actually started you stepping into this work?
Yeah. You talk to anyone in workforce development, and they'll tell you that there is no clear pathway to workforce development. And there, at least during my day and age, there was no master's program that would lead you to workforce development specifically. So it's been a little bit of a rambling road, but I grew up in small town Texas, ended up finding my way to the University of Texas, which felt like the big time for me. And ended up actually in a bachelor's of science of advertising program of all things. And let's be honest, the reason why I was in that program is because my parents would not pay for theater school.
That would have been fun, wouldn't it? Yeah,
That
okay.
would have been so fun. It just
Yeah, it would
wasn't
have been so fun.
practical. But I got to use communication skills. I got to use some creativity in advertising. It ended up being a really fun program. It also ended up teaching me a little about business too. But as I was doing internships and things like that out of college, I realized that a lot of what I was doing was marketing to people who oftentimes had issues. Like they struggle with certain types of materialism or maybe like alcoholism. And I was basically trying to sell as much of that product to them as possible. And it didn't really align with my personal ethic. And so I started doing advertising and communications for on the nonprofit side for a little while. And even that just didn't, I didn't feel like it was as hands-on as I wanted to be in sort of the people work that I was hoping to be more aligned with, directly working alongside folks who maybe had needs that I could meet. But I had no imagination for it at the time. And I had friends who were working with some non-governmental organizations, NGOs in the Middle East. And they were like, hey, you're young and figuring it out. Why don't you come on over to Lebanon with us and we will learn Arabic together and we will volunteer together with some NGOs and you can explore what it's like to be in a totally different place. And at the time, it sounded like the best idea I'd ever heard of.
That's a
And
great idea.
it was a great idea and it
Yeah.
changed my life. Truly, it completely transformed my life. I, for the first time in my life, was in an environment where I didn't know the language, didn't know the culture. I felt like a toddler that my friends around me had to like basically teach me how to live in the world. It was incredibly humbling. And then I got to give back just a little bit in volunteering in a Palestinian refugee camp and a couple of other volunteer activities. But it was really that Palestinian refugee camp that made an impact on me. It's where I first learned what a refugee is, that I learned that people are displaced from their country and some people don't have passports that actually protect them or mean anything. And that there were folks who were displaced from what they call home and a place of safety. And it deeply impacted me. And when I came back to the United States, a little bit of Arabic under my belt, I started working for the Refugee Services of Texas here in Austin, just volunteering. And someone saw some potential in me at the Refugee Services of Texas. And she was like, I really think that you should work for us and you should be an employment specialist because we see how you advocate for the clients and we think that you could help them to get meaningful employment. And far and away best job I've ever had. Loved it so much. Working directly with clients, helping them to write resumes, go to job interviews. And I learned two things on that job. I learned one, that advocacy is really important. And two, that a poor quality job can ruin someone's life.
What do you
um,
mean by a poor quality job?
yeah. So at the time, I was helping refugees who had done really meaningful work in their home country do things that they never thought they'd ever do in their entire lives, coming here and being paid very much under minimum wage at the time. I mean, we're looking at 7.25 an hour, I think, which meant that they would work all day long, sometimes two or three jobs, and then not even be able to actually pay the rent. And it became something that was not very dignifying for them. It became something that caused them to no longer be able to be on public benefits, but then meant that they couldn't pay for their own lives. They ended up having to ask children to hold down jobs to help support the family, even though they are going through massive cultural transition. So job quality, meaning jobs that pay a meaningful wage, that help to support a family, pay for their lives, and then also help them to find a sense of like personal alignment and mission with that work, at least so that it feels dignifying and meaningful to them, became something I became really passionate about and really shaped the rest of my career.
That's amazing. So you went from small town Texas, you wanted to do theater, didn't do that, advertising, didn't love it, decided to move to Lebanon, worked in a refugee camp, moved here, refugee services, got it.
Yeah.
Workforce. Yeah, yeah.
So job quality became important to me. And I knew that to be able to impact job quality on a large scale, I was probably going to get a little bit more, needed a little bit more education. And there was a great program at Boston College in Boston, a macro social work program that took me to Boston, and I ended up getting my master's there. But as wonderful as that program was, my real education was with Jewish Vocational Service Boston, JVS Boston, which is an incredible workforce development agency. They have just the most innovative workforce programming in the nation, but they also just have a very long history of fighting on behalf of refugees and
Mhm.
immigrants, and ever since World War II. So I learned from them. I had great mentors while I was there, and really helped me to understand the importance of marrying industry with workforce development strategies so that we could help industry to understand what level of quality a job needed to be in order for a job seeker to really thrive there. Yeah, and so I started working for JVS for a long time. I grew there, and then when it was time for my family and I to move back to the Austin area so that our kids could know their grandparents, I got a job as the Chief Business Development Officer at Workforce Solutions, rural capital area serving the 9 counties surrounding Travis County. And so I work on larger scale workforce initiatives that help businesses to connect with job seekers and to build pipelines into their jobs.
I love to hear people's stories about how they ended up where they are. I just had a call earlier today with a young woman who she's just in an entry level job, right? And now she's ready for that next level. And it's always like, well, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to figure out what I want to do. Do you remember the moment that you knew what your calling was, or a story or a person that you met?
Yeah, I think because you do these interviews all the time, that no one's career path is linear, or maybe very few. Maybe some people have very clear cut paths. I think you kind of have to if you become like a doctor because you
Hmm.
have to do all the
Yeah, yeah,
educational
yeah, yeah.
pathways. But um, for me, I've actually hopped between public and private industry over the years. And I've actually gone back to advertising in the past 10 years. So I did a 2.5 year stint working for a branding company, working on naming products and services and developing brand strategies. And that was really appropriate for that time in my life. And I really loved it. And ultimately, like my heart started hurting. I
Right.
missed workforce development and I missed social work. Uh, and so ultimately, I think was drawn back to like passion work at that point when I felt like I had a little bit more mobility in my life to make a decision more toward what I cared about. But it's not a bad decision to make,
Mhm.
to decide to go be in advertising for a little while. And my advertising experience has really informed a lot of my nonprofit work and helped me to do a better job, I think, at advocating for our clients. So for me, I have multiple interests. I have multiple levels of experience in different parts of different industries. And there are a couple of things that sort of light up my brain, and one of them is creativity, which is why
Mhm.
advertising kind of works. Other one is advocacy, which works on both sides of the camp. And then the three is just people work. I love client work, whether it's a client who's a job seeker or a client who's a big name brand that's trying to launch a new brand, product line, or if it's a friend who's just looking for a job. That people work has been really meaningful for me, and so it hasn't really been so much an occupational title for me as much as sort of passion alignment on a couple of different tasks or activities I like doing for work.
Yeah, it's so cool. So you have taken all of your life experience and it's produced this really cool human being, Sarah Ruddy, right? That gets to lead in the workforce. Yeah, right. In the workforce development space in only the way that you can. So you talked a bit about how your, advertising background, experience, education has helped. And then how do you think your social work background with that human centered lens has shaped the way you lead?
Mm. Yeah, so I think the way that I lead and it being through a human centered lens, a lot of my education at Boston College was through a strengths based lens. So, strengths based leadership has been it's kind of my mantra for leadership, and it's mainly because of a mentor that I had at JVS Boston who made us do the Clifton Strengths Finder test, and
Yes.
we all had to figure out what our strengths were, which was fun. But she would regularly, almost on a monthly basis, lead us through strengths-based leadership activities as a team, and she would have us view certain situations, whether it be positive or situations of conflict, through our strengths, through the lens of our strengths instead of our weaknesses or areas of struggle.
Mhm.
And I think, while a strengths based lens it doesn't account for every situation or lead you down a solutioning path every single time, it helps you to work from a place of positivity and mutual positive regard with the folks that you're either managing or are peers in the workplace. And that's really half the battle if you're dealing with conflict in the workplace or if you're trying to get a team to buy in or to have vision together to accomplish a task. It's being able to have that shared respect, that acknowledgement of one another's gifts and potential, and then also not giving people a bunch of tasks that they really hate if you can avoid it. Like, really try
Please
to,
don't make me.
yeah,
Yeah, because
align with people's passions. Yeah.
right, because otherwise they're just gonna be burned out, annoyed, and not gonna do it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you take in a team perspective, you're taking your strengths and your areas for opportunity as a team and blending those together. So
When
how do you
possible.
yeah,
Sometimes we all have to like pitch in and do the groundwork together. But yeah, when possible. Absolutely.
got it. Okay. So how do you take that same approach to impact people and job seekers with employers in finding that workforce development match?
Yeah. Well, I think some of this just goes back to how we work with job seekers, on a day to day basis with career advising and counseling. um, you're really looking for your job seekers' strengths and almost everything that you do. You're trying to highlight strengths. You're trying to help them to communicate their strengths. You're building confidence in them, not because it's insincere, but because they actually have incredible life experiences and they have amazing
Right.
skills that they've honed over time, but they may have no idea how to communicate them or how to pitch them. I can think of a program we're doing right now with a local training provider, and we're really trying to get employer buy in for the program. And so we built out an entire pitch deck. I mean, harkening back to advertising days here, where a one-page flyer which communicates the return on investment for investing in this training program, but we're also elevating the quality of talent. We're saying this talent is coming. And a lot of this talent for this particular program are service members who are transitioning out of the military and into civilian life. And we're emphasizing all of the benefits of this wonderful population of job seekers and the return on investment to employers, and practicing our pitches together so that we can emphasize sort of that strengths based perspective for the job seeker. And then also, doing the reverse work to the job seeker
Mhm.
about the employer too. And it's not all shine and it's not just putting on the ritz. It's sincere, because without those true connection points, you're not going to develop a good workforce program.
Right. I love that you're doing that with, folks that are transitioning out of the military. Are there any other really exciting shifts that you're seeing right now in workforce development, especially around access, inclusion, or innovation?
Yeah, I mean, the most exciting things to me, and I get very excited about innovative programs for things like inclusion or for certain populations of job seekers. But right now, what I'm seeing, which is super exciting to me, is how close industry is getting to the job seeker. And
Oh,
that we are seeing employers come to the table, not just when a job seeker is completely trained and ready made and like looks, like polished and ready to rock. But we're seeing employers coming to the table through industry sector partnerships and saying, we know that our talent population is diverse. We know that we've been, to use a mentor's language, fishing in the same way for a long time. We've been casting our nets out into the same waters at the same depth of water. And we have to realize that a lot of the fish that we need are different than we've ever found before. They may have different backgrounds. They may be more ethnically diverse. Um, they may be folks with disabilities. We don't know who they are, but we know that we're not reaching them. And we need new tactics, and we want to develop these pathways together with the job seeker, with the workforce board, with the CBO, with the training organization. And what's coming out of this is like some really innovative models that are, traditionally sort of backward models with the employer at the starting point instead of the end.
so you're flipping it.
Yeah.
Great.
Great.
And I know that workforce development can be extremely complicated, right? Especially in a state workforce system that you work in, right? Because it's got government, and your business, and community. And then you've got sometimes a private funder in there and maybe some federal funds, state fund, right? It just goes on and on and on. So,
Yeah.
what have you learned about leading through these complex partnerships and systems?
Yeah. So there is truly nothing more complex, I think, than workforce. I'm sure there is something more complex, but the
I've heard
player
housing, just FYI, I've heard housing, and I don't,
housing, yeah, housing might have us beat, and it's also more expensive to solve housing problems too.
that's true.
Um,
Anywho, I digress. Keep going, sorry.
no, not at all. Housing is never a digression, and it's all inextricably tied to workforce. This is how complicated it is.
Oh my
So
gosh.
childcare, it's housing, it's transportation, it's of course the job itself, it's financial well-being. I think I don't even remember what your question was, but I think it had
I
something to
don't
do
either.
with
Complex
well,
systems. How do you
complex.
work in complex systems?
Yeah, how do you navigate a complex system? I think actually a lot of it has to do with just like perseverance and moving toward a goal. Because with all the players in the room and all the funding complications, and I find myself often coming into a room of collaborators and saying, "Okay, guys, we just talked about all the ways why this is not going to work, and we talked about all the reasons why it could potentially work." And I hear that. And what are we going to do to walk forward today and like try to reach that goal that we agreed upon previously? And that's not always actually very favorably received, but um, I've found that it works to keep being the person pushing forward the end goal. And it doesn't work 100% of the time to be just merely persistent with our partners, but there are so many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to devising these new pathways and trying to get jobs for like the manufacturing industry as an example. Everybody wants to be a part of manufacturing right now because of the growth in the semiconductor industry. And it's really exciting. And it's also just very complicated. And so trying to get everyone to align and move together toward a goal requires a lot of persistence, but it also requires a lot of listening. I actually have a sticky on my computer right here that says, listen carefully, decide slowly. And it's because I have found myself having a tendency to try to push through the noise instead of listening to my partners. But my partners and my colleagues often know a lot more about the intricacies of the funding mechanism.
Mhm.
They understand how we can braid the funding. They understand how we can pull partners in that I would have never thought of from like a tangential sector that could help us to solve one part of the problem that's particularly sticky. Um, and so I think there's some humility there in like the actual listening. And
Mhm.
and so maybe those sound like kind of like contradictory, both pushing
No.
forward and listening at the same time, but um and also kind of vague, but that's the best I got for you. Sorry.
Because, I mean, I think it has to because you're constantly listening, you're getting that feedback, you're implementing what you can, and it's one step at a time. And day to day, things change, right? If you've got 10 different partners, 10 different funding sources, all of these different partners, it's not going to be the same from day to day. So you
Right.
constantly have to adjust to be able to stay towards that end goal.
Right. And you have to build really strong, trusting relationships with whoever your partners are. Usually, when you're designing workforce solutions or pathways, you have a partner who's a funding partner, you have a
Mhm.
partner who's a training partner, and then you have your employers, and then you have your actual contact with job seekers. So, whoever your partner is that's helping you to bring those job seekers in. And each and every one of those partners is completely necessary for the program to be a success. And they need to feel like they are in a trusting relationship with the other
Right.
partners if it really fails.
You said a magic word. You said success. So there are folks I'm sure that are listening that manage these huge complex problems. And actually like complexity is relative per person, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, I don't know how to get started. I'm never going to make it. What's going on? How do you measure success for yourself when the projects are so long term and day to day success is so difficult to quantify or recognize?
Yeah. That's such a good question because right now I'm working on a what feels like a year-long project that is really one that only I have eyes on. Like there's no one looking over my shoulder being like, "Good job," or assessing my KPIs on this project, but it's a deeply important project to me because it has to do with the well-being of my team and also their functioning together in a way that makes them want to stay in their jobs and like continue to
Yeah.
do the good work. And I think for me, I am measuring progress on my team's response to each and every workshop we do and each and every interaction that we have where even things get tough and we hash out an issue that's not working out well and maybe we have a high conflict situation and we're able to work through it. I actually have to find a lot of satisfaction in being able to work through conflict with colleagues too, knowing that it's helping us to ultimately get to our end result, because I don't believe that you can solve a problem that is highly complex without conflict. And so I think for me, being able to see those smaller conflicts come to a place of peace, resolution, maybe even just mutual understanding, but not peace. I have to measure that as a success, even though it feels like it's just pretty small.
Well, I mean, it's a lot. And so you have to find the little things because it's the little things that make up the big things that lead to real systems change.
Well, and some of it just is like belief, like where you're like, I'm gonna believe that this small step is gonna get us to the end result because if we make a few more of these, they will add up and I'm gonna believe that those are gonna build on each other. And you can't really control what the future is gonna bring, but I to some degree you have to keep walking in a positive direction and doing the best work that you know to do and bringing in other smart people to help you out and guide you along and keep believing.
Right,
That
because
sounds
it's the
sort of
little
like Field
steps.
of Dreams or something, but
But it's true. It's true. And it's the power of now. It's the power of action. You said something earlier, and I don't remember the exact words that you used, but about being either mission driven or doing good. I think it was doing good work. What does that mean to you?
that's such a great question. It used to be, like getting a whole bunch of people jobs would have been really good work. But I've been in various roles, some of them more like directly client facing and some of them more like distance, like maybe like removed, more leadership types of roles. I've had to sort of acknowledge that the key performance indicators do matter. Like getting people jobs at the end of the day feels like really good work. But there is also like working in accordance with my own values is really good work, I think. Because every day, if I bring myself to the work environment in a way that feels like it aligns with my values and my character and the character I want to have in the workplace, I have to trust that that's going to result in some good work down the line, even if it's harder to see from the position that I'm in now than it used to be whenever I got to have more of that direct client interaction. So for me, it's working really hard every day, working with character and integrity, trying to bring my whole repertoire of experience and network to every single program and project. Not being catty or gossipy and not deprecating colleagues or peers, trying to work toward a positive workforce ecosystem for everybody and not just myself. Knowing that my actions, whether observed or not, are going to ultimately impact our job seekers and our employers.
Wow. I love that you mentioned how your values and alignment to those values are your success every day. I don't know that people give that enough credit for job satisfaction and success because that's what helped you go forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think actually being a mom taught me that more than anything else because you have less control over parenting than you do even your own work in the workplace. Like even with work, you can sort of like force results if you want to. Maybe
Right.
you can make a program, you can doctor a program's metrics and make it look a little bit better than it is or something like that. But parenting is really humbling because you can't actually control what your children are going to do with what you give them and what the end result is going to be, and it like tries you on all sides. And I've found in the doldrums of parenting where things are just hard and I'm doing childcare and I'm out at the park and I'm dealing with tantruming and whatever that at the end of the day, it's like what I bring to the table, like my character with my kids is going to yield the most positive impact in their lives. But it's also something that I can like at the end of the day, if it was just a terrible day, I can go to bed with peace knowing that I like brought my best self.
Beautiful. Time has flown. And
Are we done?
no, we're almost done. We're getting there. So let's close. I have a few quick fire questions
Okay.
I ask all of my guests. So just answer with the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. What's one lesson you've learned that you wish everyone knew?
Oh man, I'm totally blanking on one lesson I've learned that I wished everybody knew. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe it's what I said earlier. Uh, I I got into this work because I actually believed that wellness and work are very closely tied. Like a person's sense of self confidence, their sense of well being is tied to whatever their job is. But I think I've learned that actually your perception about your job and the role it plays in your life and how you're going to approach your work are maybe more important than the work itself. And it doesn't mean that you should keep doing a job that you absolutely hate for the rest of your life. But I do think there is a lot of internal work. So it's not just one realization or one lesson, but I've done a lot of internal work to not make the nature of my job, the exact thing I'm working on, the people I'm working with, like how clear our vision is, like impact my internal sense of wellness in a way that really like colors my entire outlook. And instead, sort of like turn my own perspective on my job and make my work meaningful because I'm bringing myself to the work um, and that's been a hard lesson for me because I care so very much about work. And I also work with a lot of job seekers who are experiencing the pains of transition
Right.
and how hard it is to be out of work and how hard it is to be in a job that they're not passionate about. But I think that in that moment where you're experiencing that pain, there's real opportunity for internal growth.
Great. Okay, if you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
You're all right.
You're
You're
all
all
right, Sarah.
right. No, I was like very intense child, I think, and very passionate and very like concerned about doing things right and like having the biggest impact that I possibly could. And I think I really needed to know that ultimately, like, the state of my soul was good, like, that, like,
Yeah.
you're gonna be alright, like, you're gonna find your way, and you're gonna have times that feel really meaningful and times that don't, and ultimately, um, it's gonna be alright.
In one sentence.
Oh, no.
I know. Oh, no. What does leadership mean to you today?
One sentence. Holding the vision and leading with clarity and kindness.
What's the boldest choice you've made that's paid off?
Probably moving to Austin, Texas, and pitching my job to Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area and saying, "Guys, don't you wanna hire me to do this thing that you weren't even planning on hiring anybody for?" And, them taking a shot on me was probably one of the bolder things I've done.
You were a fantastic networker and self advocate, by the way.
Thanks.
Just FYI, my opinion.
Well,
Yes.
may
And
I
then
use that for others. Thank you.
and then what's the next big dream you're chasing?
I think, I want to continue exploring ways to have a bigger impact. While it doesn't feel like a feverish need anymore to make the biggest possible impact that I can in my
Right.
life at all times, I think maybe this comes with like growing and your understanding of your own career and exploring different like technical aspects of your career and seeing other people do things really well. But I would really like to keep exploring ways to amplify the work that I can do and have a bigger impact in workforce development, impacting more people, especially being able to impact job quality and move the dial on job quality.
Mhm.
um, in my previous work at JVS Boston, we defined job quality in 5 ways. One was salary, which is sort of obvious. The second one is benefits. The third one is scheduling flexibility, which has become increasingly more important to job seekers over time. The fourth one is having a career ladder where you feel like you can grow within your organization. And then the fifth one is strong supervision, managerial support, feeling like you also have a peer that's like a friend at work,
Right.
maybe, someone you can confide in. I think all of those things uh, are really important to me and are something that I would love to have a stronger impact on so that more people can experience wellness at work.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sarah. Thank you
Thank
for
you. This was
sharing
so
your
fun.
good. And so if listeners do walk away and they just remember one thing from this conversation, what do you hope that is?
You can do good work today, and you're you're okay.
You are okay.
You're okay.
You're okay. So, on a more personal note, what has it meant for you to share your story here on Unmute Yourself today?
This has been sort of vulnerable and scary and really fun as well. It's kind of an honor to be able to share your personal story to anybody, much less more than one person or people you've never met before, and have them listen. So, thank you for listening. It's meaningful to be heard.
Well, I'm so glad. I loved having you. And if listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that or support your work?
LinkedIn, yeah, I'm pretty
LinkedIn.
easily accessible on LinkedIn.
Well, thank you again, Sarah, for joining me. And thank you to everyone listening for showing up, reflecting, and for unmuting yourself in your own way. And if today's conversation inspired you, please share this episode, like, subscribe, follow, and stay tuned for more stories of leaders creating work that truly fits and matters. Until next time, unmute yourself and step into the story only you can tell.